Just yesterday, Haman ceased to be a Judah. My God,
today I ask, what is the Ghanaian identity? It is the values that we hold sacrosanct that actually makes us Ghanaian. We can't continue to do things as we used to do. The question is, what are the values? It's values that have made nations nations. Stop copying blindly and understand that we used to have a certain identity that stood us out proudly as a people. What makes you a Ghanaian? I ask, what makes you a Ghanaian? I ask again, what really makes you a Ghanaian? By virtue of the fact that you were born within the geographical borders of Ghana, so you are Ghanaian? Or you were born to Ghanaian parents, so you are Ghanaian? I ask these questions because beyond the fact that you were born to Ghanaian parents, or you are born within the space of Ghana, or you naturalize as a Ghanaian, is that enough? I don't believe so. Beyond just that, it is the values that we hold sacrosanct that actually makes us Ghanaian. The question is, what are the values that we all hold on to? What is the identity that we have that really makes us Ghanaian beyond our skin, pigmentation, and as I said earlier on, the fact that you are holding a Ghanaian passport or you are born in Ghana? Nations have been built because beyond citizenry at birth is values that have made nations nations. It's identity that has made nations nations. And at independence, we had an identity. We had values. Yeah, fault Kwame Nkrumah all you want because we are human beings and we are not infallible. But when he continues to be celebrated across the length and breadth of the globe at the turn of the millennium, he was celebrated. Humbly so, working with President Mills at an AU summit in Kampala, Uganda. President Mills spoke to a standing ovation, celebrating Nkrumah. At another AU summit in Addis Ababa, where President Mills actually got the AU to adopt 21st September, Kwame Nkrumah's birthday or birth date, as a special day on the AU calendar. At that same AU summit, Kwame Nkrumah's statue was unveiled at the frontage of the new AU building. And humbly so, as a Ghanaian, it was a source of pride for me to have been working with President Mills. And so I was part of that moment. It was because all those things took place because of the values that Kwame Nkrumah espoused at the beginning of the journey of our dear motherland. And so there was a disruption in 1966. In 1966, the 1966 coup d'etat obviously created a disruption. And as a people. So that was a disruption in 1966. But in critical thinking, there's what we call disruptive thinking, when you have to break into systems. Where we have gotten to now, there must be disruptive thinking within the ambit of critical thinking for mindset transformation. We can't continue to do things as we used to do. There must be new ways of doing the things. So Kwame Nkrumah stood for some values when he said that the independence of Ghana was meaningless unless it was totally linked to the liberation of the African continent. Values he believed in. Values that made him pursue that Pan-Africanist agenda. It's not surprising that after the 1966 coup, Kwame Nkrumah ended up as co-president with President Ahmed Sékou of Guinea. Yes. And I want to believe that my history is right. And so Kwame Nkrumah remains the only human being to have been president of two separate nations. Yes. Kwame Nkrumah remains the only human being to have been president of two separate nations. Independent Ghana and then independent Guinea-Conakry. Last year, under the auspices of ECOWAS, because I do some international elections observation with ECOWAS, I happened to be in Guinea-Conakry. And on the side, when I had a little time, I was able to visit Villa Kwame Nkrumah. And that's a picture of myself at the frontage of Villa Kwame Nkrumah on your screens. And it was, for me, a pilgrimage. As I set foot on the compound of Villa Kwame Nkrumah. And Villa Kwame Nkrumah is just next door to Villa Sile. That's where Ahmed Sékou lived. There's a thin wall that separated Ahmed Sékou and Kwame Nkrumah. I am making the point that it was the values that Kwame Nkrumah espoused in pursuing a certain dream that will make another president say, come and be co-president. And so, from 66 to 72, 1972, when Kwame Nkrumah passed, may his soul rest well, he was co-president. There's a whole military barracks which is known as the Kwame Nkrumah Barracks, right there in Guinea. Kwame Nkrumah is so revered in Guinea And so when there's an attempt to rewrite history, it is impossible. Nobody can rewrite that history and downplay what Kwame Nkrumah stood for. But it was because he had an identity. He talked about the Ghanaian identity and the African personality. The Ghanaian identity, the African personality. Today I ask, what is the Ghanaian identity? Tell me, what is the Ghanaian identity? We say the proverbial Ghanaian hospitality. Why? It's good. But is that all we can flag? And it is that proverbial Ghanaian hospitality that allows us to sit in our nation. And we are so hospitable that others can come and do whatever they want to do in our country. Is that the identity? Certainly not. And so as we have this discussion of building a mindset or rebuilding our mindset through disruptive thinking, we must go back and understand what it is that identifies us as Ghanaians. And I've built my own equation. This is Koku's equation. Identity minus values. So it's on the screen. Identity minus values equals 0. Values minus identity equals 0. Nation equals identity plus values. Values plus identity equals nation. Nation minus identity, identity crisis. Nation minus values, value crisis. So, Ghanaians, in all honesty, are we or are we not facing identity crisis? Are we or are we not facing value crisis? We are wrapping ourselves around issues, yes, that are really not standing us out in terms of this is the position we have on issues. And so, nation building is about consciously and deliberately working towards a unique identity. And for me, one of the most important institutions in this country is the National Commission for Civic Education, NCCE. Yeah. With all due respect, the NCCE on a daily basis should be there, out there, as the institution that is driving the mindset transformation. But we have built a mindset that is more interested in elections. Elections. And so we create a monster out of the Electoral Commission because that's where the whole mindset is fixated. What about the National Commission for Civic Education? That should be driving every day nation building agenda. You see, for the longest, the National Commission for Civic Education was sitting in some small office at the headquarters of the Electoral Commission at Reach. Yes, that's where the headquarters of the NCC used to be. I remember visiting Josephine Nkrumah when she was NCC boss at the time. And so that was when it hit me hard. We have put NCCE in the belly of the Electoral Commission. The Electoral Commission has its duty to perform wonderful as an EMB, as an elections management body. But the NCC, what are we really doing with it? Is it not sad that in our recent history, Ghana was second to Sudan per a WHO survey? Ghana was second to Sudan on the issue of open defecation. Yes, open defecation. Kwame Nkrumah's Ghana, the shining star of Africa. Is that our identity? Should that be our identity? When we used to have the town council people, and we corrupted it to tankers, but those town council officers who move around our homes and ensure that we were living like human beings ought to live. What happened to them? Yes, today we have trained hygiene personnel. But what is happening to the nation's collective hygiene? What is happening to the nation's collective hygiene? When we are even training hygiene officers at a higher level. And so we have to go back and retool the mindset. Stop copying blindly and understand that we used to have a certain identity that stood us out proudly as a people. We have to rediscover that national pride. But it will only come when together, as a collective, we understand that we must be in alignment with what it is that identifies us as a people. Jealously guard it and protect it. As I always say, you will have people who will want to fly out of that basket. But that is their business. And at a point in time, I was vice president of the Council of African Political Parties. And in 2019, I did a little article and presented at a meeting in Algeria. So back to my book, Uncompromising Thoughts, Leaving Out National Issues. Just a little take. Africa is sitting on limitless wealth, yet we continue to wallow in poverty because of the blocked mindset, which has locked up our ability to exponentially transform our collective existence. Africa does not need geographical transformation. What we need is a hurried but calculated mindset transformation. If we do not walk into the era of positive, disruptive thinking, which will grant us the mindset transformation we need to tap into the array of wealth that creation has bestowed on our beloved continent, then we are heading for perpetual doom. Once again, we are not giving up. We are not going to give up. We are building resilience into this whole narrative of mindset transformation, God presence in nation building. Together, we will build. Together, we shall recreate. Together, the motherland will gain its original pride, identity, and value system. We will walk tall. Ghana will not die. Ghana will live to give glory and honor to God Almighty. It is well. It shall be well. God will bless our homeland, Ghana. Thank you. The next episode, we will meet. Adios.